Two gunmen are on the run in France tonight after a bloody terrorist attack on staff at a satirical magazine in Paris. 12 people were killed, including 4 renowned cartoonists and 2 police officers. The 2 suspects are brothers born in Paris of Algerian descent. An 18-year-old man who was also named by police has since turned himself in. His involvement at this stage remains unclear. Charlie Hebdo has a long history of mocking politicians and religion, and it's believed this attack was in revenge for cartoons about Islam. Europe correspondent Mary Guerin reports from Paris.
Well planned and in broad daylight, the brutal attack that brought terrorism to a quiet Parisian street. Frightened office workers captured on video 2 masked gunmen in black commando gear stormed the offices of the satirical magazine Charlie Hebdo. At 11:20 local time, armed with AK-47 rifles, they fired at people in the lobby. They knew exactly who they were looking for, and one by one, journalists were called forward and executed. Among the dead, 4 celebrated cartoonists, including the magazine's editor, Stéphane Charbonnier. Around 5 minutes later, their assault was over and the gunmen returned to the street. A startled pedestrian hides behind a nearby car. With seemingly military-trained precision, the men exchange gunfire with police, shouting "God is great," before calmly crossing the road to shoot and kill an injured police officer. The video is simply too graphic to show. Witnesses say the men, speaking in perfect French accents, shouted, "We have avenged the Prophet Muhammad," before fleeing in a black Citroën.
We wanted to run there to see what was happening, but when we realised that the shots were coming from there, we hid instead.
Police described the scene as a bloodbath. 12 killed, 11 more injured. Around an hour after the attack, the French president was on the scene.
We are threatened because we are a country of freedom, and because we're a country of freedom, we will be able to face these threats.
As thousands of police officers were deployed on the streets of Paris to hunt down the gunmen, they were speeding north when they smashed into another car, injuring the driver. They tried to continue, but were forced to abandon their vehicle a few streets away. There they hijacked another car at gunpoint and fled Paris. 12 hours later, elite commandos descended on this apartment in the northern city of Reims, 140 kilometres from Paris. Police had identified their suspects, Saïd and Sherif Kouachi, brothers of Algerian descent in their 30s. Sherif Kouachi served 3 years in prison for associating with a group that sent jihadist fighters to Iraq. This attack has left the French public in shock, but also defiant. Thousands of Parisians gathered at the Place de la République, the city's historic centre of dissent. The phrase, "I am Charlie," has become a rallying call for people expressing solidarity with the victims.
We cannot imagine without the freedom to say what we think. It's not possible.
This extraordinary and spontaneous display is not just an expression of grief, but of solidarity. You can hear the chants of Charlie. They've also been shouting for the freedom of expression and that we will not be afraid. A nation with a long history of defending democracy, tested by a brazen act of violence.